Have you ever heard a name that instantly took you back to a world of Sunday roasts, jumble sales, and black and white telly humming in the corner? Once upon a time, names carried the rhythm of their age. The sound of a Nigel or a Doris was more than a label. It was a character in the great story of Britain. You could hear them echoing down school corridors, in the chatter of post-war streets, or scribbled carefully on the front of an exercise book. But like so many things, the corner shop, the coal fire, the milk float at dawn, some names quietly faded from everyday life. No grand farewell, just a slow vanishing, generation by generation, until they became relics of a different time. Today, we're opening the old family album of Britain's past to remember 20 British names that once defined our nation and then disappeared. Let's count down and see which ones made the list. Number 1, Nigel. There was a time when Britain was full of Nigels, sensible men in corduroy jackets and Ford Cortinas, brimming with quiet confidence. The name itself carried a certain charm, dependable, slightly bookish, unmistakably British. Nigel peaked in the mid-20th century, a favourite among middle-class parents who wanted something refined yet friendly. It felt educated, the sort of name that might belong to your geography teacher or the man who fixed your boiler with a knowing grin. But by the 1990s, Nigel had vanished from birth certificates. Younger generations found it stuffy, even comical, more likely to appear in a pub sketch than a playground. Today, Nigel stands as a symbol of Britain's gentle, dependable everyman, the kind of name that reminds us of simpler times and polite handshakes. Number 2, Ethel. Ethel was once the pride of Edwardian Britain, a name that shimmered with grace and moral strength. You can almost picture her, apron-tied, hair pinned neatly, standing by the window as steam rises from the teapot. The name's roots reach deep into Anglo-Saxon history, meaning noble. For decades, it embodied dignity, hard work, and quiet resilience. The kind of woman who kept the world turning during the wars. But as fashion shifted after the 1950s, Ethel began to sound dated, replaced by sleek, modern choices like Susan and Linda. By the millennium, it was gone, a whisper from another age. Today, Ethel feels almost timeless again, waiting for revival, a name that speaks of lace curtains, church bells, and the unspoken strength of Britain's mothers. Number 3, Trevor. Picture the 1970s, patterned wallpaper, top of the pops on TV, and a man named Trevor polishing his motorbike on a Sunday morning. Trevor had character, solid, honest, working-class charm. It was a name of practicality and pride, the sort you'd find on a tradesman's van or a cricket club roster. Yet by the late 1990s, Trevor had fallen out of favour. Perhaps it was seen as old-fashioned, or too tied to the generation of flared trousers and cassette tapes. Still, there's a warmth to it, the kind of name that feels familiar even if you've never met one. Today, Trevor stands as a tribute to Britain's grafting spirit. Reliable, cheerful, and utterly unpretentious. Number 4, Sharon. Sharon, the name that ruled the late 60s and 70s, brimming with glamour and youthful energy. You can almost hear it shouted across a seaside arcade. Shaz!
Over here!
Once sparkling and modern, Sharon captured the optimism of post-war Britain, a name for girls who dreamed big, laughed loud, and danced to ABBA. But by the 1990s, it became unfairly stereotyped, overused, and then quietly dropped. Today, very few baby Sharons are born, yet mention the name and people smile, remembering the hair rollers, discos, and carefree summers of decades past. It stands as a reminder that even fashion in names follows the rhythm of the times, dazzling, fading, then fondly missed. Number 5, Colin. Colin, sensible, kind, softly spoken. It was never a show-off's name, but that was its beauty. In the post-war years, every office and football pitch seemed to have one. It carried an air of modest decency, the man who'd help you move a sofa or fix the shed without fuss. But by the new millennium, Colin had all but disappeared from playgrounds. To younger parents, it felt beige, too steady for the fast-paced 21st century. Still, say it aloud, and you can almost hear the voice of a generation that valued reliability over flashiness. Today, Colin stands as a quiet emblem of British humility, proof that not every hero needs to shout to be remembered. Number 6. Mavis. Mavis once fluttered through Britain's tea rooms and bingo halls, a name brimming with cheer. Popular in the 1930s and 40s, it had a soft musical lilt, like a songbird on a washing line. She was everyone's favourite aunt or the friendly neighbour who always had biscuits ready. But as the decades rolled on, Mavis faded from the baby name charts, replaced by trendier newcomers like Karen and Julie. And yet, there's something irresistibly nostalgic about it, cozy and familiar, like the hum of a radio in the kitchen. Today, Mavis is remembered with affection, a snapshot of Britain's post-war warmth and neighbourly kindness. Number 7. Derek. Derek was once the name of confidence, bold, lively, maybe even a bit cheeky. The 1950s and 60s were full of Dereks, shopkeepers, mechanics, school teachers, and dads who ruled the barbecue. It carried a sense of straightforward masculinity, dependable and proud. But as Britain modernised, Derek began to sound too dad-like, and by the 2000s, few babies bore the name. Even so, Derek still carries that unmistakable British charm, practical, friendly, slightly mischievous. Today it reminds us of a generation who fixed things, cracked jokes, and kept calm when life got tough. Number 8. Pauline. Once upon a time, Pauline was sophistication itself. It swept through the 1940s and 50s like a perfume, elegant and composed. You'd find a Pauline behind the typewriter at the local office, or hosting the family Christmas dinner with quiet grace. But as newer, brighter names like Michelle and Lisa arrived, Pauline felt old world, a little too formal for the changing decades. Still, there's poetry in its syllables. Say it aloud and it feels like a name from a letter written in blue ink and tied with ribbon. Today, Pauline stands as a symbol of poise, a gentle reminder of the women who balanced work, family, and dignity in post-war Britain. Number 9. Barry. Barry, a name full of personality. It was the lad next door, the joker at the pub, or the cousin who always had the best records. During the 1960s, Barry was everywhere, cheerful, confident, and unmistakably British. But by the 1990s, Barry's sparkle had dimmed. Pop culture turned it into a punchline, and parents moved on to cooler choices. Yet deep down, Barry represents something Britain often misses, the cheeky charm of ordinary life. Today, the name lives on in memories of laughter, pint glasses clinking, and easy friendship. Barry may have left the baby books, but he never really left Britain's heart. Number 10. Brenda. Brenda once stood tall, practical, reliable, and quietly strong. In post-war Britain, you'd find Brendas running canteens, keeping ledgers, and holding families together. It was the name of a doer, not a dreamer. But as decades passed, Brenda slipped from favour, dismissed as plain in a world chasing glamour. Still, it carries an earthy dignity, the sound of someone who got on with it, no fuss required. Today, Brenda reminds us that behind every era's progress were women like her, steady hands and kind hearts, holding Britain together, one cup of tea at a time. Number 11. Clive. Clive once evoked adventure. Think of explorers, airmen, and dashing BBC presenters. It had a crisp, confident ring to it, popular through the 1950s and 60s. But as baby names softened in tone, Clive began to fade. It felt too formal, too tied to an era of pipe smoke and pressed trousers. Still, there's something quietly heroic about it. Clive feels like a man who stands by his word, who values tradition and good manners. Today, the name is rare but dignified, a salute to Britain's age of composure and quiet ambition. Number 12. Jean, a simple, gentle name that once filled classrooms and factory floors alike. Short, strong, and unpretentious, it captured the soul of mid-century Britain. She was the nurse, the neighbor, the singer at the church choir, the heart of every community. But as the 1980s approached, Jean began to vanish from birth lists, replaced by the likes of Emma and Sarah. Still, when you hear it, you think of laughter echoing down a cobbled street or the smell of fresh bread cooling on a windowsill. Today, Jean stands as a portrait of kindness, a name stitched into the very fabric of everyday Britain. Number 13. Graham. Graham was once the gentleman of the group. Polite, articulate, dependable. You'd trust a Graham with your car keys and your secrets. The name reached its peak in the 1960s and 70s, found in classrooms, offices, and cricket clubs alike. But by the 2000s, it felt dated, replaced by sharper modern names like Ryan or Daniel. Still, Graham carries a warmth few others do. It's steady, decent, and unmistakably British. Today, Graham reminds us of a time when being dependable was fashionable, when loyalty mattered more than flash. Number 14. Doris. If any name conjures up the golden age of Britain, it's Doris. It smells of lavender polish and freshly baked scones, of ration books and wireless broadcasts. Doris was strong, no nonsense, and endlessly capable. The kind of woman who ran households and communities with quiet authority. But as Britain stepped into the swinging 60s, Doris was left behind. Too old-fashioned for a modern world chasing glamour and youth. Today, Doris feels charmingly vintage again, a name from a time when resilience and grace went hand in hand. Number 15. Malcolm. Malcolm had a scholarly air, the name of someone who read the paper cover to cover before breakfast. In the 1950s and 60s, it was everywhere, from classrooms to corner offices. But over time, Malcolm faded, seen as too serious, too buttoned up for the modern age. Yet its quiet intelligence endures. Malcolm sounds like the voice of reason, the steady hand amid chaos. Today, it reminds us that wisdom never goes out of style, even if the names that carried it sometimes do. Number 16. Tracy. Tracy was pure 1970s sparkle, fun, fashionable, and full of life. From the hair salons to the dance floors, there was always a Tracy with big dreams and even bigger hair. It captured the optimism of a new generation, girls growing up with pop idols and color television. But by the 1990s, the name had become overused, then quietly vanished from the charts. Still, Tracy holds a special place in British nostalgia, the sound of laughter, radio hits, and nights at the roller disco. Today, it stands as a reminder of Britain's bright, carefree youth. Number 17. Keith. Keith once carried quiet confidence, the name of steady men who built things, fixed things, and stood their ground. It boomed through the 1950s and 60s, especially in working-class Britain, before slowly slipping away by the 1990s. Perhaps it felt too ordinary, too tied to a past that younger generations didn't quite understand. But to many, Keith still means loyalty and reliability, a name that doesn't need attention to prove its worth. Today, it echoes with the sound of wrenches, radio hums and Sunday papers, the soundtrack of everyday British life. Number 18. Carol. Carol was warmth personified, cheerful, friendly, and full of heart. Popular from the 1940s to the 1970s, it shone especially bright around Christmas time, for obvious reasons. Every office had a Carol, the organizer, the peacekeeper, the one who remembered everyone's birthday. But with each new decade, it faded, replaced by more modern choices. Still, the name itself feels like a smile, melodic, homely, impossible to dislike. Today, Carol remains a gentle reminder of the women who brought joy and order to everyday Britain. Number 19. Wayne. Wayne burst into Britain with transatlantic flair, cool, tough, slightly rebellious. It carried echoes of Hollywood swagger in the 1970s and 80s, and for a while, parents loved it. But like many trends, it burned bright and faded fast. By the 2000s, Wayne had slipped from favor, its image colored by tabloid caricatures. Still, for many, the name evokes memories of youth, motorbikes, jukeboxes, and denim jackets. Today, Wayne reminds us of a time when Britain flirted with American cool, and how even that phase has now become its own nostalgia. Number 20. Sheila. And finally, Sheila, soft yet strong, friendly yet firm, it once filled post-war Britain. A name of teachers, nurses, and mums who kept everything together. It has roots in Old Gaelic, meaning heavenly, and for decades it lived up to it, the woman who always knew what to do. But as fashion changed, Sheila faded quietly away, remembered mostly in family stories and signed birthday cards. Today, it stands as a symbol of Britain's backbone, of warmth, patience, and quiet heroism. Names are more than words, they're time capsules. Each one carries the echo of its era, the laughter in the living room, the ring of a school bell, the hum of a factory at dawn. These names, Nigel, Mavis, Colin, Doris, and the rest, may no longer fill classroom registers, but they live on in the stories we tell, the memories we keep, and the photographs we still treasure. In a way, they remind us that time always moves on. Fashions fade, but the spirit behind them remains. Because behind every old-fashioned name was a life, a family, a chapter in Britain's story. If you enjoyed this trip through the past, don't forget to hype this video, share it, and subscribe to Britain Rewind for more forgotten stories, timeless names, and echoes of the Britain we remember.